What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Depeche Mode, and we're back with Songs of Faith and Devotion, 1993. People will know I'm not as familiar with this album historically or over the decades as I am with other material, including, perhaps, both albums around this one, meaning I've known Violator and Ultra better over the years than I have this one. And again, when I reacted to In Your Room, I thought it wasn't on the album, when I thought like maybe I had heard another version, which I do think I had, and someone mentioned like the single version and the album version are slightly different, but either way, a tune I also vaguely remember is Get Right With Me. What I do remember about this one, sonically, is it has this, I don't want to say bluesy, but it has a natural instrument sort of feel, and it has this down-tempo type of sonic rhythm or atmosphere. Lyrically, what I remember is it's essentially a song about like redemption, or at least optimism for redemption. And given the themes on the album overall, and given the phrasing of "get right with me," it feels like he might be speaking as God, speaking as the supernatural being to which the redemption would be focused or directed. But ultimately, the idea that people can redeem themselves, or they can make amends, and they have it in their nature. And I think the opening verse is something like, he has optimism in humans, or something like that. Like, I forget exactly the phrasing, but it like he has perhaps hope for humanity that others would see as misplaced. I'll be keen to hear the lines, because I'm remembering it somewhat vaguely. But yeah, ultimately, when I heard this album and Violator, although less so Ultra, which is odd, but when I heard this album and the one before it, I do remember thinking like they're moving more and more toward like normal instruments and like rock arrangements and like blues rock sort of sounds, which a number of people mention, like the band has evolved, so the fact that if you really liked a certain part of their sound, well, then it's going to make sense that when they move into something else that you might not be fond of it. But ultimately, as I've said all along, I'm here for anything Depeche Mode, so let's hear it. This is Get Right With Me from 1993, Songs of Faith and Devotion by Depeche Mode. Industrial gospel blues. You just know, like, doing these reactions over the last couple of years has reminded me, like, no Depeche Mode tune just ends, like, simply. So yeah, again, it's the the main part of the track. I'll call it. I'll focus on first, which is to say that last part. It's engaging. It's interesting, but it doesn't. It feels disconnected. It feels like, an interlude, which I suppose functionally it is. Like, you listen to the whole album, well then the next track starts after that. But listening to a tune in isolation, the way it's cut, it feels like we're gonna put this on there too, like, just because. So but again, I get in the concept of the larger album, it's a bridge. Regardless, the main part of the track, it was heavier than I remembered. I remembered the piano. I remembered the overall sort of down tempo sonics. Like, it's not a four to the floor, like, up tempo groover, but it was heavier industrially, percussively than I was recalling. And yeah, ultimately, I think the lyrics are in the place that I was remembering. It seems to be from the point of view of a theistic entity, saying that he has faith in the ability of man to, find hope and redemption, and ultimately to, be capable of seeking it. But yeah, there is ultimately a unsettling, like, frenetic, even aggressive way those whispered vocals of the "Get Right With Me," especially at the end, it's like it feels more menacing than the phrase itself would perhaps suggest. Perhaps. So yeah, I don't know exactly what's going on, but I feel like it feels, and especially again, given the religious themes and the emotional and psychosexual blending of concepts throughout the entire album, it feels like that's probably where it is. Although again, it could of course be between two people, and one that is in a dominant position toward the other, and saying, I have confidence that you could find your way back into my good graces, and so on. But I feel like it's more likely that the larger understanding of what I heard. But yeah, like I said, a cool blend of sonics, similar to what I was remembering, but a bit heavier, a bit harder. And yeah, again, with a added bit at the end that, if removed from the larger context of the record, feels a bit out of place. But that's because of the way that I go through tracks individually. So that's not really on the album or Depeche Mode. In any case, shout out to Depeche Mode in 1993. Shout out to all the reissues that I've got, which, as I've gone through, I've never been sure, like, if they differ significantly in one way or another compared to the original releases. Like, some of the reissues that I've gotten, like for Erasure, for example, on each of the track listings, it'll specify, with like a little symbol, that the last two or last track are bonus tunes. So again, I was a kid when I was getting the 80s stuff, and I was still pretty young when I was getting the 90s Depeche Mode. So yeah, as I go through these reaction series, and even in regard to Depeche Mode, a band I knew pretty well compared to a lot of others, I've been surprised that, again, there's differences that I sometimes wish I was dead. It wasn't on the Speak and Spell that I had. I heard it years later, but when I remember, like, discovering, like, wait a minute, so that was, like, on Speak and Spell on the original version, but then we got a different version, which, what was it, was it New Life? Was it New Life, or was it the regular version of Photographic? Not the, like, earlier, edgier version. One of those, I think, was the tune that we got replaced on the American version, and I like both of those tracks. So, like, you know, for me, I didn't know any better, but I'm glad that I heard the tunes I did as a kid. But I remember when I heard that track, I was like, "Oh, this is fantastic," and it would fit right in. And it was like, "Oh, so wait, but it was on the album? What?" So yeah, as I go through these Depeche Mode albums, and again, this one, it's been very touch and go. I did a few, I think, early on, but yeah, I haven't been back to this album in a while. So, in any case, I suppose if I have Discogs open, do I? I do indeed. Okay, so yeah, my reissue is it 2020? It looks like 2021, maybe. No, I'm wrong. What am I saying? It's '06. Okay, but I can look up the original American version, presumably, so. Yeah, it looks like it's all the same tracks. Just to confirm, is it? Yeah, I see every single one. So apparently this one, there was no distinction between the American and UK release. In any case, I look forward to catching up, the bits and pieces of the Depeche Mode catalog that I haven't gone through. Ultimately, I still think there's some remixes that Han Solo has made available in the different folders for the 80s album, so look forward to going through those. Let me know what you think of this. I will see you next time. Peace.